everyone to the Board of Selectmen's meeting. It is March 3rd, and thank you so much for braving this weather. The agenda this evening is we'll call the meeting to order and do the Pledge of Allegiance. We have a number of people here in the room that I think are here for all the same things, so we're going to dive right into the solar moratorium discussion. And then we have manager reports and financial reports. Under new business, we also have a Public Works plow truck RFP, another equipment RFP, sweeper RFP, and the road posting. We'll go over payables and any other business. At this time, please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hold on, Madam Mayor, can you hold on a moment? We don't have Jimmy on yet, so we're gonna call it for now. We have someone on Zoom, but we're not sure who it is, and they're not responding to us, so we're gonna take it as a board report for now until we get confirmation that it's Jimmy on. Okay.
Call over, text them.
You're good to go ahead. Okay.
Okay, so we have a number of people here for the proposed solar moratorium. We have folks who are opposed to the moratorium and who are that are advocating for a moratorium. So how we're going to approach this is if there are anyone in this room that would be willing to speak on behalf of their position of the solar moratorium, either for or opposed, we'll allow that representative 5 minutes each, and then we'll have some opportunity after they speak to answer any questions or for rebuttal, and we'll play that one by ear, depending on who needs to speak or who would like to say something. So we don't want to limit anyone per se, but there's a lot of people here in the room, and we want to make sure that everyone's voices are heard. So is there anyone that would be willing to speak? If you could raise your hand, please. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Who would like to come up first? If you could introduce yourself.
I would have Gordon Collins come up first, since he's kind of the one spearheading it, to let people know what's going on.
Correct. Is there like a come up area, or is this coming up? You guys don't
You
have
can
microphones,
stand
right?
there
Okay.
wherever in the room you want to.
Good. All right, first of all, thank you. I'm Gordon Collins. I've lived in this town since 2019. I know many of you. First, I just want to say thank you for everyone for your support on this. This first came to my attention with a running friend in town who is a budding landowner to a project that has just recently been put forward for approval in town. I didn't see it before then. We kind of chased it back into that to find more information on it. And many of the local landowners, the 21 abutting landowners to this new recent project, came forth for planning board recently to express concern that there's a lot of worries about the way some of these solar projects are now approaching our town. I know there are a number of projects in town. I know Poland Spring has one out on their own land. I know there's one on Lewiston Junction Road. There are a few other projects that the planning board let us know are also coming up. And And we want to be clear, we're not against landowner rights, we're not against bringing in new projects for town, but I think it became very clear when you have a project that is surrounded by 21 landowners, creeping into the village and residential areas in town, that maybe there are some concerns we have about where these projects are being put in, how often they're being put in. I believe Mr. Porter said that there were 5 presentations at this point, maybe 1 that was rejected. And again, we're very much concerned about the speed at which these are coming in. I was just reading through the lawyer's letter that was here at the door, and he talked about how it was fair and thorough was our cluck. But the one thing that's missing in there is there's nothing to stop them. There's no objections, there's no pushback. We technically followed the rules is the overwhelming theme in that letter. I think a lot of these solar companies, especially this newest one coming into town, which was incorporated in Delaware through a Carolina company, through a Yarmouth company, into our own backyards, they follow the rules. Are the rules sufficient enough to make sure the town of Poland is benefiting from these? You guys saw our necessity information. We're very much concerned about whether they're actually going to contribute to town taxes. We don't know that. Are they going to endanger our water, our air, and our trees? We don't know that. We know this recent project will cut down over 6 acres of trees in an area surrounded by 21 residences. Are the decommissioning standards good enough? What if we want to return it back to agricultural land? Even the owner admitted, the lawyer admitted that it's probably the bare minimum with decommissioning, but they're hoping the cash will cover that down the road. If we have 3, 4, 5 of these go under at once, does Poland just end up with a pile of cash and we don't know how to clean up a bunch of solar sites? Those trees will never regrow in our time. They'll never grow in our kids' time. We'll never restore that land to agricultural. Will our infrastructure handle it? Sure, per that statement. Oh, well, we cover the project and CMP comes in and puts in a bunch of pole lines. What does that look like? Are we a battery for the rest of the state? Does that benefit us in any way, shape, or form? Right? Those are things we don't know. These are concerns we have without an impact study on how they'll affect our community. More importantly, if they're getting state kickbacks for taxes and they don't contribute much to our local tax base, which we all know, our taxes go up every year. I know the budget board does a lot of work to try to stabilize that best we can. You folks do. We've chatted about it a million times. If they don't contribute a lot to our taxes, but it raises the valuation of our town, does that affect our school budget, which is also a problem? Poland, Maine has not voted in a school budget in 3 years. I have doubts we'll vote in this year. That's very much a concern to the taxpayers and something that we have to look at. The long and short of it is, there's an awful lot that we don't know about this. And is 4 projects okay? Is 5 projects okay? What if we put one in right behind here, behind the building here? What if we put one in down here? At what point do we just become a highway with a bunch of solar projects around it and a bunch of power lines and nothing to add value to the town to offset our tax concerns and issues? So that's all we're asking is to put a pause on that and see if our cluck, yeah, technically our cluck is capable. That's what the lawyers like. They like to see, okay, it's fair, we know what the rules are. Are those rules stringent enough to protect our community? So that's what we're asking of the select board tonight. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Gordon.
thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak? Or
Yeah, hi, sorry, my name is Rich Shorty, I'm pretty sure I have bronchitis from a cold I had a week ago, my voice about this much longer. I'm actually representing the project, I'm a president of Flycatcher, a professional weapons scientist. Flycatcher is a land use consulting company down at Yarmouth, that's probably the Yarmouth tie. The company that's developing it is a company called Paddle Energy. They're incorporated in North Carolina. We developed last year, I think, 7 projects through to completion. Those projects some of them are under construction now, others will be starting pretty soon. We have maybe 4 or 5 projects left that were under the original Maine Net Energy Billing Program. The state of Maine sort of finalized that program at the end of last year, so we're currently waiting for what the next program looks like. Most of the projects we're working on now are going to still be in that original program. Sean Murphy is with me from Flycatcher. He's actually leading the permitting on this, and there's a lot more about the ordinance of the town. So I'm going to pass to him because I'm about to stop being able to talk. Excuse me. Thank you.
Sorry for the tag team.
you wanna tag someone in, that seems fine. Let me just say, I'm not against solar ordinances. I said that to the town of Machias about 3 months ago, when they didn't have a solar ordinance. I've said it, I've helped towns write their own solar ordinances. I'm not against a solar ordinance. You have a solar ordinance. You went through a process, you have a solar ordinance. I can tell you that based on what I've seen in other towns, it's very comparable to those of other places right here. That doesn't mean the town can't go back and look for it, but the reasons being offered for the moratorium seem to me, and again, I'm a frustrated professor at some level, a little bit murky. So they offer the property value protection. They're talking about average 7.2% losses in residential. It's from a study, it's a good study, it's worth reading. And what they say there is that 7.2%, but after 7 years, the differences are negligible. And what they don't talk about is that for larger agricultural land, it goes up 19.1%. There's an increase in property value there. And for larger properties with more than 5 acres, it's null sum, but in all cases, after 7 years, it goes back to 0 again. There's a talk in here about setbacks. What's really interesting about this study is it doesn't seem to matter according to the study. You can disagree with the study results, but they really describe it as being psychological. There's a difference between your political ideology over how much of a difference of your property value changes, depending on where you stand on a political spectrum could affect how you look at it. Fiscal stability, I would ask, and I don't know who would answer this question, has anybody looked at the fact you have solar facilities in town, you know what they're paying for taxes, you know what the land's assessed at, was there any change in the state money you received because of that? I don't see any information that suggests that's the case there, it just sort of offered as a potential thing that might be happening. Infrastructure structure study, applicants pay an awful lot of money to Versant or CMP to do these studies for reliability and stability. I don't know what role the town would have in that process, how the town would become involved in helping CMP or making your own determinations without paying a lot of your money to do those studies or requiring essentially duplication. And then decommissioning, I'll just say really quickly, 48 inches for agricultural makes a lot of sense. In fact, the Maine State Decommissioning Act requires that. Every decommissioning plan I've written, and I've written well over 50, has that requirement. If it's agricultural land, it's already there. So maybe you want to change your ordinance to have that in there, but you have the backstop authority, the need for a moratorium. There's nothing in here that makes me think there's a moratorium, there's a crisis, that your solar ordinance as it stands isn't working. Do you want to tweak it? Great, I think towns should have that sort of choice, but does that need to be through a moratorium process? Particularly when some of the concerns to be related, like, is this too many out in the future? As Rich said, the program is, that sort of drove a lot of this growth, is dead for the time being. When he says, we'll wait for the next one, I don't know if there's gonna be a next one. I mean, we'll have to see what we look like come January of next year in terms of what we have for a state legislative body, to see what we have, if anything. So there's not a pressing stream. What you have in front of you is more or less what you're gonna have. And so it seems to me having a group get together and figure out if these are actually problems or not seems warranted.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Does anyone have any?
It's a question more than anything else. I'm Matt Vieter. Growing up, I grew up in Gray New Gloucester. I went to Gray New Gloucester High School, and we had the McKinn dump site up there. And it, was a chemical, it was one of the hazmat areas that, polluted the water and stuff like that. And, growing up, we had all the water fountains were taped off. You had to get boiled water, and that's back in the 70s, and, that's when you had to get in line for your gas, your gas prices and stuff. On an odd day, you could only get gas at a certain pump, or if you had a license plate, and all that other stuff. So one of the things with that, I don't know if there's any provisions in there that put aside money in a trust for cleanup. Because one of the things with the McKinn site is they went bankrupt, and they left everyone holding the bag. So that would address a lot of the cleanup issues if there was something. Now, personal opinion, I think, I know I mentioned it to a handful of people, that I think any law we put on, we take away a freedom. So we have to be really concerned on what we want to take away from people that they can do on their property. And I know it affects, I mean, I'm not gonna, we'll have provisions, we wanna put a landfill. If I wanna put a landfill on my property, I'm sure no one would be happy. But there are provisions for that in that. So that was just my concern. As long as, I think it might be able to, but as far as property values, I mean, if they build a solar farm, we know that property, no one's gonna want to, that's not gonna be my first choice of housing I'm gonna buy if there's a solar farm right next to it. If I open up my window and I see a solar farm, that's probably not gonna be in my best list. So there are gonna be better options out there. So I think there should be some concern with that, but I don't wanna restrict the rights of the other property owner for doing what they want. So I guess it is a fine line. And, but I think we have good things in here that can hopefully protect it. But maybe there's also something that can protect the price of the property value. Like, is their property value gonna go down on the next assessment because a solar farm's gonna be there? I don't think it will. They'll still pay more taxes. I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
So I'm just gonna touch base really quick on the fiscal, because I did look at the Lewiston Junction one to see the taxation and stuff. So what I did notice in that is the land itself went from undeveloped land being taxed as undeveloped land to being taxed as developed land. It is still currently taxed as developed land. The solar farm itself, which is considered a building in taxation, was taxed the very first year because it is not exempt from taxes by state statute until the second year. And the first year we collected $53,000 in taxes from that one solar farm. Now it is tax exempt from the building. So the land is still being taxed that it is on. It is being taxed as developed land instead of undeveloped land now. So we did get a little bit of increase. It wasn't much, just what everybody else pays for that. And then we got the first year of building taxes from the solar farm, but we do not get anything after that. But again, they have to meet the state criteria to get that exemption.
So you're saying to me, under the state statute, if this is Poland Spring bottling or whatever iteration they're considered now, they have personal property tax based on the equipment. So under state law, the first year is they're getting hit on the valuation of whatever the value of the solar panels that they put up, and then after that, it goes away. That's what
As
you're
long
saying.
as they meet the state statute requirements for exempt under renewable energy.
So,
Nikki, I have a question.
getting back to this gentleman's position, it seems like it's more, not what we're doing here, it's more of an issue with the state. And Mr. Boyer could talk about that, or you can talk to Mr. Boyer about that going forward. But the fact is, and people that don't know me, I'm Jim Porter, I've been on the planning board for years, budget committee, whatever. So since 2019, the first solar farm came into town, tried to develop, and 2 of them developed down off from Torrey Road and Lewiston Junction Road. These were large facilities. Back in the old days, the solar developers got money from the Fed and the state. Sites, they took all the money, developed them, and sold them to third-party people. So what we're dealing with right now is not what we dealt with back in 2019, 2020, when we had a couple of proposals come in before the planning board. We developed the solar rules for the town, and they got approved, I believe, in 2022 at the town meeting, so you're in 2026. So it's not like we haven't been looking at these things. I've not been aware of the personal property thing, which I thought was dropping because, in all honesty, we had a solar developer come to us because we have a large slug of land. We looked at developing that into a solar farm. We played with them for a year and a half, and one of the developers, or these people that reached out to us, We didn't go with them, we went with somebody else. And when we looked at the overall, benefit to us monetarily, socially, everything else, we decided, no, it's not worth it, they're gonna encumber the land for 40 years. So we backed away. So I'm surprised that I didn't notice that the state washes that, they don't include that as personal property to the developer, next amp, whoever the Flycatcher is dealing with down in North Carolina. So yeah, I think that's a problem. And maybe, I don't know if there's a way we can change that in our ordinance, but I do think there's an issue. And the only other issue I saw with this was talking about ag land being developed for solar and removing the posts and every stanchion down 48 inches, 4 feet. And what I heard from you, from Flycatcher, said that's part of the state statute anyhow on ag land. This is not ag land, this is woodland. This is,
Sure,
so
I'm
would that,
responding to
would
what this is.
would that still, does that pertain to any solar decommissioning site that any of the stanchions, anything mounted in the ground, whatever depth it is, has to be removed on the decommissioning? That's what I would like an answer on.
Sure,
Please.
state law says that it's 24, you have to move down to 24 inches for non-agricultural land, 48 inches for agricultural. And the idea behind that is so that the land can easily return back to agriculture again. 48 inches is just sort of the depth of a plow type thing.
Marianne, we have Mike Atkinson, who this letter is from, that's you guys have received on Zoom. And we'll invite him in if he wants to speak.
Welcome, Mike.
Great, thank you for having me. I think my letter sums up my thoughts pretty well, but I'm happy to answer any questions if the board has any from me.
I don't, I appreciate you taking the time to send us that letter. It was, it was thorough and informative. I didn't have any questions.
My pleasure, thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
I have sort of a general question, I guess. The size of the project is 6 acres. What is the current, how much acreage does the property owner have total?
For me or for the other project that you all were discussing?
The one that we're discussing.
Sorry, I don't know the answer to that. I wasn't actually coming here prepared to talk about the
That's okay.
project so much as just the general idea. So,
Because what I'm getting at is if the property owner owns like 20 acres and we're developing 6 of it, I'm kind of thinking about as far as the 21 abutters, what that is in like a general buffer around the development to the neighbors.
So there's a setback requirement, and I think it's 50 feet.
Correct.
You would know better than I would, yeah. And the town solar ordinance has a visual assessment requirement. As part of the application, you need to demonstrate that there's not visual impact from it. So
Right.
I guess I would say that that's where the planning board, and there's no, it's not like noise where there's a definitive standard. There's a certain amount of qualitative analysis, but that's one of the things that the planning board will do is have us demonstrate that we, that we're providing sufficient visual barrier to the neighbors.
And I understand that the surface of the project is, the surface area is your hard surface, but that also includes like a road that gets, like access roads and things that are developed, and that all goes into the basic square footage of the project?
So the less than 1 acre impervious area of access road and a concrete pad for the equipment. And then the rest of the area that's developed is, in this case, was pointed out, that there'll be tree cutting in there,
Right.
reducing that down. That's not considered to be impervious or otherwise developed by the state of Maine because we're putting it into a meadow state, which can only be mowed up to twice a year. And that, without going into the specifics of how they do their storm management model, but that's actually gonna reduce stormwater runoff more than having trees there.
and I understand it's all like to impact like natural habitat and the wildlife and everything. The size of the project, is it considered a small, a medium, or a large project? Because again, I know that goes into the square footage of like the actual area of the panels of the solar panels?
I think it's considered a large project under
Okay.
your ordinance. And we just had a sketch plan meeting to have exactly the kind of conversation we had this last meeting, which we appreciated from the town, people coming forward and talking about the project.
One last just comment that I'm not hearing talked about in all of our ordinances is nobody's talking about the environmental impact to the 21 house owners who are on well systems. And this is disruption to the land, 6 acres, lots of poles going in, lots of dangerous chemicals coming off those solar panels. So I'm not near this property. I agree, it's a fine line to tell a property owner they can't develop something on their land, but when something's developed on the land that impacts 21 other people and their water and the habitat that's clearly a part of this corridor for wildlife, for deer, for their deer winter hibernation and so forth, what studies or what kind of conversations happen around those impacts to homeowners, to their water systems, to the disruption, and to fire, because now it's gonna be going down a very long road behind 21 houses, and if there's ever a fire in that situation, is the fire department prepared for this? Are those 21 house owners, protected from this? So it's an odd spot, and Peter, we know each other, and it's not against you, it's an odd spot. Our farm has been approached for the past 11 years that we've owned it, and we have turned down every single solar farm project. We don't gain benefit from it, the town doesn't gain benefit from it, the people that put the solar projects in get benefit from it. And what I'm hearing is this is gonna go away because enough is enough with solar, so what is the guarantee in 20 to 30 years that someone's even around to decommission these things? That's my concern, is the people, the water, the environment, the habitat, and when we choose locations for solar farms, it just needs to be something discussed.
So I will say that I did a lot of reading and a lot of researching pros and cons, and I purposely would search negative impacts. And I found I couldn't find any study as far as had negative impacts. If you
Okay,
have
then
something, I would love to
I
read
will
it.
share it, yes, I'll send that to you.
I have studies from like the University of Virginia and, different wherevers. And they have not found so far that solar panels give off PFASs or any of those dangerous chemicals. And when they've tested the land afterwards, they haven't found those things in the studies that I found.
Okay.
So
I'll share
I'm
the studies
sure that
I-
there are studies that are gonna, you can find studies for, studies against. But I did honestly, purposely look for negative impact studies.
So, on that note, so I've done my own research within the state of Maine, not outside, because most of these solar farms and these companies are in warm weather states. So, what I did find, and give it some examples, you guys may not have been part of this, but what I did find is that solar farm in Gray, you guys familiar with that?
Mhm. The one that sits under the snow
4
all
years,
season?
just sitting there.
Yeah.
That's number one. I spoke to someone in the town of Leeds, sitting there for a whole year, nothing's going on. My other concern is for the residents, and I'm gonna speak candidly here, is, yeah, it benefits the landowner, but it doesn't benefit the community. So I have to ask this question since CMP likes to raise their rates all the time. I have a customer from Farmington, Maine, who gave me her bill. And she gets charged $15 a month for a non-CMP cost to support Maine public policies, initiatives, and subsidies, which is the solar. So my question, is the residents here going to be charged from CMP $15 a month? You guys know that?
I can answer that question.
Yes or no? Is it a yes or no? That's all I'm asking, yes or no?
Do you want a legitimate answer?
I'll give it, I want a yes or no answer,
John,
it's
I
as simple.
think we should allow Jim to answer the question.
Jim, are the residents gonna be charged a $15 monthly fee by CMP?
If the substation is not at capacity, then no. Possibly they could be on that end. So if you come in here with a solar development, like this gentleman's trying to do with this group, it's the same substation that the development was gonna be on my property. A same substation that's being fed by another solar farm on Route 11. If you have two of these things that overload that substation and CMP needs to upgrade everything there, it's not dropped onto the taxpayers. It's dropped onto the solar developer. So the solar developer at that point is gonna say, I can make this amount of money. CMP says I have to upgrade the substation by this amount of millions of dollars. They weigh cost benefit analysis on that and say, it's worth doing it. So no, it will not drop on if the substation is at capacity. Now, below capacity, it might be some small things that need to be tweaked, of which maybe CMP or Versant pays for, but when it's at capacity, no, it's not.
But what's the guarantee it's, how is it determined? Because again, we're
I
not
don't know,
a
speak to
warm
your-
weather
speak
state.
Speak to Mr. Boyer over here.
Yeah, I will, I'll speak to him, hang on,
the whole-
I will speak to him, I'm
Yeah.
not done, please.
Okay.
Okay. Everybody likes to be a salesman.
Yep.
Okay, so, on that note, we don't know. This particular
we
town
do know.
here is a big town, and they're getting charged. So, honestly, to be honest, you don't work for CMP, so you really can't
No, I don't,
answer
I
that.
don't.
Okay, so let's be fair. And the other thing
You know
is,
how the rules work,
and the other thing is, there is solar panels
Yep.
that aren't lasting for 20 years.
obviously.
Okay, and they're getting disposed of in dumpsters. So, again, the can is here. We talk about kicking the can down the road, we got the can right here. Do we wanna keep kicking that can down the road, so when the solar farm fails or the funding is cut off, what happens then to the cleanup? Cause they cannot be disposed of. So.
What are you doing with yours on the San Solar?
So, you know, and I love that argument because I think
No, I'm
the
just
solar
asking- I'm
panels
asking.
on a building or any type of housing, I think that is beneficial.
I agree.
Throwing it in a field somewhere is not. I mean, you're right. What about the solar panels on there? Again, no one thinks about the long term, just what's in front of them. So I'm thinking long term here as well. So, and thank you, nothing against you or anybody here, I'm just saying, I hear this all the time and it's just, I don't think the
Well-
facts are 100% either side.
Right, but let me just make a quick comment. I was asked to be here because I'm on the planning board.
Right,
And we've had these solar farms come before us.
right.
So back in 2019, a solar farm came before us. Went through informational, then we got into sketch plan in 2020. That was in February of 2020. And then we all know what happened after that. The world blew up, everybody became an idiot. We had shut down everything. Our next meeting was in June of 2020. And we went through a solar farm that was coming through the town. We went through 3 or 4 meetings on that. We approved it. They have not built yet. Another one came in and has built down on the Torrey Road. So since 2020, we had 2 applications. One was built, one was not. The other one has come before us 3 different times because their application has lapsed. They could not possibly get the funding that they thought they could get back in the old days when the developers got all the funding. So they've walked away or haven't even come back again. So we're talking about 5 solar developers. 2 were big, the first 2 were big, I give you that. And then in 2022, the town developed a solar ordinance, which is before everybody here, and large solar development is not allowed in town. If you look at it's small and medium, so we can throw the large away. We've had 5 applications in a 6 or 7 year period. And of that, 1 has been built, and this gentleman is, I think that's on the Zoom here, is talking about the one down on Route 11, which has been approved in 2025, hasn't been built yet, they're still waiting for their funding. So I appreciate a lot of people here that are worried about all this solar development happening in town, just like everybody's worried about subdivisions. We have things sporadically come before us. But I'm not saying not to do a solar moratorium. I'm just saying, obviously, anything in the pipeline's not gonna be affected by that, but if you think this is such a worldly changing issue, and we've had 5 in 6 or 7 years, I would say to you, maybe think about this, ask between the code office and other people, where can these things be sited? You need 3-phase power, you need this, you need a land mass of a certain size. I mean, I don't know if you're thinking that you're gonna have 100 of these in town, because you can't, just based on stuff, but it's up to you to decide what's going on, but once again, I think you just need to know that it's, from my point of view on the planning board, we're not inundated by them.
Can you clarify something you just said? He said that this would be considered a large project, and you just said only small and medium.
And I want to be very clear too, I also said I haven't looked at the ordinance recently, I don't know what size it is. Obviously, if our project isn't allowed in the ordinance, we won't build the project in the town. It's just
Yours
not
is-
I just wanted clarification because he said large ones weren't allowed, you
Right.
called it a large one, I just was trying to make it make sense.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate that, because people that don't come before the planning board don't.
David,
See
you
that
had
a lot.
something?
Thank you. My name was brought up twice, one more and I'll go home. My name's Dave Boyer, I'm the representative here for most of Poland and Mechanic Falls. Just wanted to throw a couple things out there from Augusta. One, my understanding of the public policy charge on the bill, that is the net energy billing program, and that's amortized across all ratepayers. And I don't believe it has any effect on whether you've got this much power or this much demand. It's, divided by the ratepayers, and that's what everyone pays. There's been changes to that program from 2019. It started and really got going 2019, 2020. It's probably why you didn't see a million of them come in. But the net energy billing, essentially the ratepayers are subsidizing a portion of these solar projects to make them profitable. We're trying to incentivize this type of energy, for better or for worse. And so we were warned the last couple years that this program has really ballooned and was looking at charging ratepayers up to $220 million for 2025. So the legislature kind of stepped in. One side wanted to kind of, get rid of it all. The other side, not so much. So what kind of was worked out was they put the pause button and grandfathered everyone that was already kind of in existence, because they felt they had businesses, and it's not fair to change the rules, sort of, but that's up for debate. But that was why. And then so now going forward, it's kind of capped it, and it's going to tinker off. But my understanding, after talking to some folks here, and then my colleague, Representative Foster, who's on the Energy Committee, has worked really into this issue, because the way they changed the program, the net energy billing program now, it kind of encourages more smaller projects rather than less larger projects because of the cap. And so that's kind of why you're maybe seeing this now more, and may see it more. The program, it's not politically popular, at least on my side of the aisle. We're not in charge. We might not be in charge next cycle. They may be, but they still might do something to it. So it's not, it's based on a subsidy, and it's based on policy that could change. And then I think one or two other points was, we did have a bill last session to test the grounds of these sites for PFAS and other contaminants, and it was voted down, unfortunately, I think, because it would be good data, especially right now. And the other thing is, I think and I don't want to wade too much into waters that aren't mine, but the select board would, my understanding, be sending a moratorium to warrant, so they wouldn't be deciding on the moratorium tonight, but allowing the town to vote on it. And I'm always for more public participation. So that's all I have, I think, about this kind of debate. It's a really heady, complex policy area, lots of layers. I think I got most of that right. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Thank you, David.
Lisa?
Yeah, I have just want to make sure I know what the ask is here. That the folks that are in favor of a solar moratorium are proposing that we put a hold on all commercial solar projects in Poland. Is that generally what you're talking
In
about?
residential and village areas.
In residential and villagers, okay, so there's an area. The projects that have already gone through some form of, got through planning board to some degree. I think Jim and Porter and I talked about this the other day as he was trying to educate me on our land use code in the solar area. If your project is on that path already, I think you have to at least have gone to the site plan before the planning board. I think that's what you have to do. Those folks would be unaffected by the moratorium. I think 80% sure that that's what would be.
I had a question, but this gentleman here has been raising his hand for a little bit. Do you mind if
Oh,
we?
go ahead, yeah, I made a point.
I'm in the corner here. I'm Bill Almey. I don't have any idea what your ordinance says. I'm from Freiburg. I don't know what their ordinance says. I don't know if anybody has driven along 302 into Freiburg. There's a large solar farm. I don't think anyone in Freiburg is in favor of it except the one person that's benefiting from it. Also, we're talking about decommissioning costs. I don't know what your ordinance says, but that money should be put up front in escrow so that when this company goes out of business or when it shuts down in 20 years, the money is there to take care of the problem that they're gonna leave. I'll sit down.
Thank you so much.
Lisa, I just want to touch, you asked the size of the one particular.
Yep.
So sketch plan says it is a 10.1 acre lot. They're looking to disturb 6.1 acres of land, and the fence line for the actual solar array is going to encompass 3.7 acres of that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and Jimmy Walker has his hand up, who is a board member who is joining us by Zoom, so I think we should see if Jimmy has something he needs to say.
Jim, you're muted. Can you unmute?
There you go, Jimmy.
Okay. No, I've been listening to everybody. I'm a longtime resident here, and I'm really concerned about farmland getting used up in commercial use. What are we gonna do? That gentleman that just spoke, I think that I'm worried about in 20 years, if these companies go out of business, we're gonna look like a solar junkyard here. And if nobody cleans it up, I've been looking around different areas. I've seen solar panels on top of buildings. I went by a couple of places when I was coming back from Poland the other day in Gray. There's a couple of places along Saturday Lake that got solar panels sitting on top of their homes, and they're defunct, and they look terrible. And I'm really concerned what the future is on this whole solar. I think private is all right, but when people start getting into commercial use, it's a big concern for me of seeing this in this town. It does. I hear people out there. It does ruin the looks of the property value. I'm worried about these small farmers that depend on hay around this area. Otherwise than that, they're gonna end up hauling hay into this town. I have a neighbor here that depends on haying fields here. If those fields get used up in solar, it's gonna hurt the farmland, it's gonna hurt the wildlife. I hear them people, all around. And it's a big concern. I've lived here, I'll be 75 years old this year, and I've lived here all my life. and I've seen the town of Poland change greatly. And, I'm one of them people, I'm very concerned.
Thank you, Jimmy.
And
You're welcome.
just to answer the question about decommissioning, the state does have it in the standards that there are decommissioning standards.
Yeah.
And they have to be
Yeah.
financially backed and approved by the DEP.
Plus,
But that
we're
culvert is full,
secondary,
right?
we're a secondary holder on that note as
Yep.
well.
Yep.
Just so
I
everybody
think
in
he's
town
right,
knows,
they
it's just
do,
not the state.
we do have to hold these big companies accountable. If, you know, if they do go out of business, I don't wanna see us look like a junkyard here that we have to clean up. If there's no money to clean up, and we don't need to use taxpayer money for cleanup, that's for sure.
Thank you, Jimmy.
I
You're
have
welcome.
a question that's in part so Mike, and Jim. But, Mike, in your statement, you discussed, the various hoops and that you had to jump through to get to where your project is at this point in time. My question is, how much of that has to be accomplished before coming to planning board? Is there investment up front before coming to planning board, or is planning board an earlier step before these investments are made?
There's definitely investment upfront, before coming to the planning board. Specifically, boundary surveys, engineering fees. Your ordinance right now is robust and requires the developer to provide a lot of information, about the proposed project before getting an approval from the planning board. So there is definitely upfront investment, and also going through the process with CNP to get the approval to connect to the grid. Those studies are also expensive and an investment, and at least myself and probably the majority of other solar developers would not go to the planning board without having that approval from CNP first, just because of the difficulties connecting to the grid these days. But once the planning board approval is in hand, there is usually a significant amount of additional investment that is made. So before beginning construction. So it's a little bit of both. There's definitely investment upfront before the planning board. But once a planning board approves a project, the developer will definitely continue to make even larger investments as they get ready to begin construction.
And Jim, can you speak to that or add anything to that in terms of like, what do we as a town require at minimum before you would even consider reviewing a project like this?
Well, we require a group like, say, Flycatcher, or anybody else that's sitting there representing a developer to come into town, assess the size of the lot, the wetland delineation, three-phase power. They're reaching out to CMP to see if the grid can accept it, the substation, all this. So they can come in before us with a pre-application saying, this group would like to do a 1 megawatt or a 0.99 megawatt facility on my property. We have the capacity of the land space. You can see the array, how they want to lay that out, how they're going to cut the trees, how they're going to do everything on that. Deal with vernal pools, deal with the neighbors, deal with stormwater runoff, deal with phosphorus, deal with everything just like a normal site plan, which you guys would have to do if you're going to develop a business in town. And then after that, we go through a checklist and say, okay, you've met a checklist, now we need more information. Getting back into, like this gentleman was saying over here, we're not gonna sit here and approve something if CMP says you don't have capacity on your grid. So it goes to the next level, so they get a cursory look at it, spend boundary surveys, wetland, all this other stuff. They go a little bit higher at the next level, and then before final approval, we just make sure that they have everything that's required within our ordinance.
I have a question. Total cost, so let's say it gets approved, who pays for the construction of everything? And are the jobs within Maine? How does that work? How's that contracted out?
Like in the projects that we build?
Yeah.
Or like, 'cause I can't, again, I don't know what Mike does, I can't speak to all the projects.
Or Mike, maybe Mike can answer that.
Um,
So what's the cost of building one of these? Who pays for it?
it's going up every year.
Yeah.
That I know. So no, it's paid for by the developer. I mean, these are long-term investments, and that's why everybody's so hesitant to jump into like a boundary survey and start local permitting before you hear from the utility. Utility, in our case, took over 18 months to get back to us and tell us that, hey, it's gonna cost you a couple $100,000 to do this 0.99 megawatt project at this location, and here's why. So it wasn't, we didn't wanna do all the other surveys, so because they could come back, and they have come back, they came back on a project on a brownfield, on a town-owned parcel in Parsonsfield, and told us a similar sized project was $7 million to plug in. Shook hands and walked away, you know, so that happens a lot. So anyway, so you get through that process, you work with the town, you go, you get your stormwater permits, your NRPAs, your DEP permits. Land is the first thing, you know, in addition to CMP, obviously, you need land to build it, you need to plug it, you need an extension cord to plug it, and then you need a suitable zoning situation, you need, used to be 7 acres, panels are more efficient, so now we're building them inside of 4 acres and a fence, which is a pretty tight project, it's as tight as we can get it. So you bring all that together, the developers usually get financing, and they finance a project like you would any construction project. Usually goes out to bid. Often the projects are, you put 2 or 3 projects together at a time. And you'll look for an engineering, procurement, and construction contractor that will come in and put up a bond to sort of pay for the materials and build the project, and you'll pay them on milestones throughout the rest of the project. But it's just, it's paid for like, just like any other investment. How different companies make money on those investments, wildly disparate. It's all over the board. Definitely not my expertise, but.
Thank you. And so I have to ask the question, and respect the landowner, of course, I feel bad, it's his property. So what's the benefit to the landowner? They just sell the land and they're done, or they make money as this solar farm produces?
Yeah, I say similarly, it really depends. Sometimes landowner sells the land, or sometimes the developers buys land that's for sale. But most of the time, particularly for the smaller projects like, you know, the 1 megawatt projects that are the only ones really being built right now, most of the time it's a lease. It's just a long-term lease. So it's rent land basically for a period of time that coincides generally with the terms of the contracts, so 20, 30, 40
And then my last question is that, who does this benefit in the long run? Does it benefit the town? Does it benefit the residents, or just it benefits only the owner of the solar farm? And what is the purpose, if that's all it is?
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, I'll say what I almost said earlier, but it was coughing, but like, I definitely can't speak for CMP, so on that question. Good luck.
It's okay.
And
Right
then,
here in the bin. Why, you wet again?
Jim, you gotta mute.
you got to be.
Okay. You're good.
And similarly, I can't speak for the Maine Revenue Service.
Yeah.
You know, to your representative's point, like, a lot of people feel back in 2019, 2020, when the state we have a renewable portfolio standard, we have very stringent goals, the state wants to be, you know, net, carbon neutral by 2030, I think now, and so they opened the door for solar. I think they kicked it open, probably a little wider than it needed to be, so we got things like the tax write-offs for help me with the language, but anyway, they're not taxing the solar projects, personal property tax. And the program was probably a little too rich, and it favored the larger 5 megawatt project, which is what you guys saw in the beginning. A couple years later, everybody started getting notes on their bills. Some were exaggerations, some were legitimate, because it was a pass-down policy charge, so the state got, you know, ramped things back, and then maybe it was 2 years ago, all of a sudden you can only do 2 megawatt projects. There were a lot of projects in various interconnection queues that have been sitting there for over, you know, for a couple of years, had spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on development, and all of a sudden they had to go from 5 megawatts to 2 megawatts, because that's the only way you can sell into the net energy billing program in Maine. That has recently been ramped back. LD 1711 was the bill that passed at the end of last year. That was a big ramp down, and it included a policy charge back to a lot of the solar developers who built the larger projects at the beginning. It did not, a lot of people left the state at that point, so like, we've changed policy quite a few times. Now, I've lived in Maine for 51 years, so I completely get it. Everybody throughout the state has been affected differently by these. The benefit is in that we have goals for renewable energy. Typically, these benefit the landowners. They do, when they are built in a town, there's no use of public services. There's no school use, there's no trash pickup, police and fire. I believe the local ordinance, most of them do require us to talk to the fire chief, make sure they've getting their, got their 2 cents into the project. Generally, it's a Knox box. Usually, if there's a volunteer component to it, there's a training of the volunteers on an annual basis so that volunteers come and go, so like the chief doesn't have to constantly try to get people up to speed. And then, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought, but the only other thing I want to say is like decommissioning has come up a lot and assets buffers, and I was gonna say, like as Sean said, your ordinance is pretty good. We've seen them all literally from Fort Kent to Kittery. Like, it does talk about decommissioning. It requires basically a similar provision that the state decommissioning law provides. The state decommissioning law was updated again a couple years ago. Any project over 4 acres or 3 acres has to get a state decommissioning permit. It's a separate standalone permit from the DEP. That requires us to get an engineer's opinion on the decommissioning costs. But it's only good for 10 years, and you have to start, is it 10 or 15?
After 15 years, you have to have your costs updated by a professional engineer, and it's updated every 5 years after that for the life of the project. I don't know if there's a conversation project that hasn't been doing anything for a year. After 1 year, it triggers the decommissioning process if you don't get approval from it. The DP requires it, but certainly I've seen towns say it as well. You have to, that money there, which is a bond, which is held by the DEP of the town, you can then take that money and start doing decommissioning. Decommissioning costs are generally estimated without including scrap. There are lots of studies out there that say if you include scrap, people make money on decommissioning. I'm not saying that, I don't have any record behind it, but I do think not including scrap as part of the overall cost, given the amount of metal we're talking about here, we're not leaving, solar panels aren't left on fields, they're taken and disposed of, it's part of the cost that you put together for these projects.
And I think your ordinance, if you remember, is 125% of the estimate. So the DEP is going to require some number based on what Sean just described, that I believe the town requires to be named as a second holder to the bond, and it's 125% of what DEP requires. So the town did a good job. And again, that decommissioning, the state decommissioning rule has those look-back provisions. So when these first came about, the decommissioning rule was sort of fuzzy, and it was town by town, and it was a nightmare because everybody was concerned, rightly so. This is a new technology, who knows if you guys are gonna be here. They basically mirrored what this came about from all the wind projects back in the day. Wind is millions of dollars to decommission, obviously, this is a lot more equipment involved. I mean, in terms of depth and stuff, and it's actually a solid point, like, I don't know what this land looks like after the solar farm's gone, if it wants to be, if someone wants to do agriculture there. The 4 feet versus 3 feet. I mean, that's a great thing to bring up at the planning board, and it's one of those things that could definitely be a condition. There's a planning board member here, and I can say on behalf of the project, I would be happy to say we'd do anything down to 4 feet. It's, you know what I mean, like, it's just, in this case, that's less of an issue because we typically use screw anchors, and it's not worth cutting them, you just unscrew them. So the technology has changed to a point where that's actually really not a big deal to do.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Sorry, one add-on, you asked earlier about who benefits. It's harder, I think, with some of the smaller projects to sort of look at that, but certainly when I started doing these in 2020 or so, there were a lot of farm owners out there who were in trouble, who were saying to themselves, I'm not sure I can keep this land here, I may need to sell it for housing, for subdivisions, for whatever it is, because farming isn't, despite the fact many people say, oh, we need to support a local farming, we're not necessarily going to the farmer's market and buying things, we're not necessarily encouraging our supermarkets to bring it in there. These people are putting in solar facilities as a solid income base for their farms to keep them alive and have something to give down to their kids. Again, it's a harder argument with a 1 megawatt, but I will tell you that there's another developer I'm working on is specifically working on a solar project with somebody who said, like, if I don't put this in, I gotta sell the land for somebody to put in housing, so. You can decide what that value is or isn't.
And I appreciate, yeah, real quick.
You wanted to ask.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
The decommissioning part of it, the panels, what's your experience with those panels when you decommission them?
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
Where are those panels going when you're decommissioning them?
Right now, some of the manufacturers take them back. I think that there are a few, it's a new technology. There are literally going to be billions of panels
Yeah.
somewhere on the face of the United States over the next few years, or if not now.
Well, the only reason why I'm saying that is because we supply dumpsters to these solar projects that are happening. For, you know, all the trash and everything else that goes along the crates. But the problem that these developers are having, or the engineers, or whoever else is designing these, is they're not sure where to get rid of these panels. And so they're literally stacking them up on the side of the fence and asking us where we should be sending them. And we don't have a solution for it. We've been trying to do research, we've been trying to look around. Like you said, the manufacturer will take back some to a degree, but the thing is they're pushing out so much right now that they don't even want to take most of it back. So without doing a costly effect with sending it down south right now, there's not a lot of solutions right now because this is so brand new and a lot of them haven't burnt out yet. But there is, like, we've been looking around, there's not a solid solution right now for where those should be going.
Yeah, I don't know what's coming in 10 years. I do know that for 10 years now that I've been in the industry, like, people have been talking about this. I know, like, Regional Waste, Casella, other waste management people have been looking into figuring out the best way to get the most material out of these things. So you recycle the glass and the steel, sure. How do you get some of the elemental material that people want to reuse out of them?
Right.
There are companies doing it. It's happening in Asia, it's happening in Europe. There are startups here, but that's about the extent of what I know.
Yeah.
I do know there's a need and there's a way to get money from it, and
For
therefore
sure.
it will happen.
Yeah, and it's the
It's not
it's the deconstruction of it is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
It's not like it's your metal where you can just send it in and chop it up and be done with it. The whole deconstruction of that panel is what the problem is getting down to.
It takes a.
There's a lot to it.
For here.
Yeah.
It takes hands.
For sure.
Good question as well.
I'll stand back up. 60 years ago, we were all told that there was a solution to nuclear waste. There hasn't been. There's still nuclear waste spread all over the country. They don't know what to do with it. That should be considered when we're talking about the millions of solar panels that have probably toxic metals in them.
Nikki, I do have a question for you, a couple questions about taxes. So you mentioned after the first year, they're exempt from that. Does that affect the state's evaluation of how much the town is worth? Does that exemption take into account their evaluation of our town and how much taxes and subsidies we get from the town?
That I do not know the answer to that one. I was not able to put my hand on that readily.
Okay.
I just know at a town level, that particular one on Lewiston Junction qualified for the state exemption, so they paid the first year of their taxes on a $3 million solar array, which was
Was that
like.
a commercial property or was that a?
It was.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah, it was
a
a
huge
commercial.
commercial problem.
So they paid their $53,000 in taxes that year. And then they qualify for the state exemption after that for the renewable energy. I do know there are certain things in place that it has to be, for different things and stuff like that. I don't know all the rules to how you qualify for that. I just know that that is in place for that one particular one.
So we don't know if they got that exemption just because of the size of it.
That I don't know.
Okay.
So, and you mentioned that, one moment, sorry, that solar panels are, it's not taxed as personal property, it's actually taxed as a building.
Correct.
So that means that the private property owner would be responsible for paying the assessed taxes on
Not
that?
necessarily, cause like Nexamp is responsible, was the ones that were taxed for the solar panels on Lewiston Junction, they're the ones that paid that. So when they do up a thing, it's like a trailer being on someone else's land in a trailer park. Someone's taxed for the land, someone else is taxed for the building, that's how that
Gotcha.
works.
So it would be the developer that would be taxed for the
Yep.
solar panel?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Just wanted to be sure of that. Thank you. And then,
Yeah, my name's Andy. So I had a question about the land itself. Were all 10.1 acres, was that sold to the solar company?
No, it's a small portion of that's being leased. On the project, Poland Corner that we had the sketch plan review for, yeah.
Okay, so it's a small section of that. And it's being leased?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not out and about to see the solar projects, but the only solar projects I've ever seen didn't have abutters. Typically, not a lot of them anyway. You're setting this right in the middle of 21 abutters. Is this common, to put a solar farm right in the middle of a neighborhood like that, basically?
If you look at an aerial photo of where the project is, it's more behind a house in the woods, way behind other houses in the woods. It's typical to have a lot of abutters. It's not typical to have it in the middle of a neighborhood. That happens early on. But when I say the middle of a neighborhood, I mean a bunch of houses, a couple of street trees, and then just nothing but, inside of a playground is a solar farm.
Right.
This is semi-typical in term, again, we've described them, some are on roofs, some are in industrial parks, some are on, a lot of them on cow pastures and hayfields, and then a lot of them ended up in the forest, in the woods. This would be on the wood side.
But in the woods, meaning there weren't many people out there, just in the woods generally. You had a big open forest or something growing there, and they just popped the solar panels on there?
Yes, that's the location.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought, okay.
And you may have been passing by them without knowing them, like I drove the other day and noticed there were 4 poles in a row right next to the road. There's a solar farm over there on the other side of that hillside. Anytime you see 4 poles, CMP wants their 4 poles there. It's an indication that there's a solar farm nearby. In most cases, you don't see it because towns, like your town, has a visual assessment requirement that requires screening.
Jim, can I ask you, how far is that road going in? Or do you know?
What's that?
Do we know how far that road's gonna go in before that clear cut starts?
It's, if you know where the house is, it's
Yeah.
going just.
Right behind
feet
it?
Behind the house, where the hammerhead is, if that.
Yeah.
So if you go up Poland Corner
So
Road
it's-
to where
it's
this
pretty close.
gentleman's house is.
Right.
And the driveway that goes to the garage and the house,
Mm-hmm.
there's gonna be, from what I saw in my planning board packet, there's gonna be a punch in up towards, say, Maple Lane.
Yeah.
From that, it goes in, hooks behind the house, does a hammerhead right behind the house, and then the clear cut and everything behind that has no road or anything associated with that.
Gotcha.
So it might be 200 feet off the road,
Something like that.
something,
But there's a
just,
requirement that that has to be visually screened from a public access.
right, but I mean, so the house has gotta meet the ordinance, so it's 50 feet off the road, hypothetically, this gentleman's house. So I'm gonna say, in my quick head, yes, it's within 200 feet of where the hypothetical access in and the hammerhead associated with the development's gonna be, yes.
So I just wanted to mention that, I know there was a concern about access to it. In the ordinance, our land use code, it does say that it has to be approved by the fire chief. And I know a little history of fire rescue, I know they have special equipment to get into, they call it a brush truck, if you will, to get to someplace quickly. And then, of course, they're bringing thousands of gallons of water with them. So yes, it does have to have the fire chief's approval. I would say in this one particular instance that we're talking about, when we ask about who's profiting from this, in my opinion, it is the homeowner. And we are hearing more and more, because our taxes do keep going up, that people are struggling. We have had people come into the town office in tears because they're gonna lose their homes. So I feel that if a homeowner can do something to help them stay in their homes, then I should not be the one that tells them that they cannot do that. As far as the moratorium requirements, we were provided some information that says, per state's.
I can just say that if that's the ones that's supposed to go on my land, negotiating with them, I can honestly say that sorry my nickname is Peter, I'm a pain in the ass, okay? I not only negotiated with them for 4 months, I would send it back, I didn't like it, for one word. I negotiated what it would do to the water, what it would do to the land. What are you gonna do about the animals that jump the fence and go in there? I negotiated, and this is where I'm sneaky, I negotiated that when they remove the solar farm, and I'll be dead and I don't give a crap, that they have to leave the enclosed fence. And you know why I'm leaving the enclosed fence? Because not only am I gonna have a road back there, this town allows me to put 3 house lots back there. So, who my relatives are, and I got 6 grandkids that are fighting over it already, there'll be 3 house lots in the back of that land. Now, in regarding to the power lines and stuff, they're gonna pay for that to go back there, not me. So when those house lots go in, I don't have to do that. Okay? So, that's the first time I've seen that. And it doesn't look that bad. Now, anybody wants to know about that, I've also negotiated with them for aesthetic value. They have to put shrubs up around it, so that the neighbors won't see it. It's gonna be in the back 6.5 acres of my land. I won't even see it, okay? And another thing that I've negotiated with them, and I know they don't like it, but crap, I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, what I wanted to ask this town to be thinking of is that you're talking about decommissioning, okay? They've already stated in the contract with me that they're gonna remove everything and put it back to their natural state. So that means they're gonna take the solar panels off my land and all the posts and everything else. The state, I think, or somebody should be collecting a decommissioning fee. But whoever has it, if it goes to the state, I wouldn't trust them, because I don't trust the federal government on what they did on nuclear fuel, okay? The second thing that I have a real question for in relationship to this issue is that they're gonna take the solar panels off my land, and I don't, like I said, I'll be dead, I don't care what they do with them. But I'm with you, I don't wanna see them in the landfill or up there at the dump. But my question I pose to you is that everybody in this town that has solar panels on their house, has solar panels on their residence, where are they gonna go? They're gonna go to the dump.
That is a good question. Are they allowed to go to our dump?
And that needs to be in the warrant
For sure.
on what you're gonna do with residential solar panels, not commercial. And I told my wife I'd be good, I wouldn't be saying anything bad, so I'll shut up.
You should have spoke first.
I think you're
That would have been shorter.
Yeah.
You're fine.
But, you know, the thing is that I look at this as everybody's concerned about revenue neutral. Well, the solar panels going on the land, I don't think it affects the state value, okay? And I read where it doesn't really get recorded and sent for 2 years. Where it affects it is if I sell the land and they build houses, and then you have more kids than what you're collecting for town taxes and revenue from the state, then you're negative revenue neutral. And that's how I presented it last time I was here, and Bryant Energy still probably doesn't like me. And now I'll be good.
So I think you guys have enough information, I feel, to make a decision whether you want to move forward yourselves with putting a moratorium on the warrant, or whether you would like them to receive signatures and do the moratorium language themselves to come up with, and they have to go out and get support from the townspeople in order for this to go before the townspeople.
And who has to get that support?
It would be a group of 5 citizens that have to
Okay.
form a committee type thing, and they have to come in and with the language and everything and an affidavit and take out papers from Judy with the language that they want.
Can I just make one clarifying about what a moratorium actually is? And so this was information that was provided to us, I believe, by the town lawyer. I don't want to misquote that though. And it says, a moratorium can only be valid if it is enacted in reaction to a true necessity, in particular because existing ordinances are inadequate to prevent serious public harm from residential, commercial, or industrial development in the affected geographical area. The CLUC already regulates solar energy systems in our chapter 16, and it says because of that, a moratorium would need to pinpoint a specific problem that the existing language does not address.
Thank you. I recognize I used a substantial amount of time earlier, but you did mention there'd be an opportunity for rebuttals, and I kind of want to recap where we are here tonight. I appreciate Mr. Murphy bringing up the study that we brought before the planning board in a previous meeting that we've shared with the select board now. 7% drop in property values, right? Only for 7 years though, only for 7 years. I know 7 years ago, my son was entering grade school and now he's knocking on the door of high school. That was 7 years ago. 7% on a $200,000 home is $14,000. That's no small amount of money to anybody, especially in Poland where I'm sure like that sometimes is half their income, I'm sure in some areas here, right? Sure, larger properties, they do get an increase in property value. Do you know why? Because once you let one solar farm in, all the other properties become up for grabs for that. Mr. Porter talked about having a presentation. The Bazuliks have been approached about it. Those are properties that are surrounding this upcoming project on Poland Corner Road, right? There are apple orchards out there. We talk about ag land. We're not talking farmland. We're not talking about, fields of corn. Grazing land is agricultural land. We know the Outwood across the street, the Outwood farm, the Foleys, they use theirs for grazing land. We know it's a deer yard. We know the deer are through there. It already is ag land, right? We would absolutely want that restored to ag land. But it doesn't do away with the 6+ acres of trees that we've mowed down in that area. And then if we put another one next door, another 6 acres of land, or trees, and another 6 acres of trees. So, what you have heard a lot here tonight is, we don't know what decommissioning looks like. We know there's a pile of cash. We don't know where they would go. We know in 15 years, if it's not tied to the rate of inflation, will it be sufficient? Because I know 15 years ago, my dollar spent a whole lot more than it does now. So 15 years is a long time to hold on to a bond that might not be tied to inflation. We don't know where it goes. Does it go to the DEP? Does Poland get it? We don't know where the money goes. We know we're not getting tax revenue from the properties other than just the improved property. There's an awful lot that we don't know about tonight. So, back to, we do know that CMP is constantly raising our rates. Somehow, indirectly, we are going to feel the pinch from this. And back to Mr. Garcett's point, in regards to a moratorium and where it sits, any project in any state in any condition that provides any sort of harm to the town, as you pointed out, affecting property values in an already pinched citizenry here, increase of school taxes, potential damage to the land without an impact study, without any return on the value to the citizens, is harm. And there are state statutes that require any moratorium to cover that, whether current, retroactive, or whatever, to make certain that there is no harm being done to the town when these projects are coming through. So I just respectfully ask you guys to consider all that when you move forward. As is, we've collected upwards of 50 to 60 signatures already. I'm not officially, we are not here as a party of 5. We are here as a party of 50 to 60 people who are already interested in some sort of action from the select board. So we appreciate your support in that.
So I want to say thank you very much, by the way, for your answering the questions and being honest. No, Larry Johnny's guy. No, I appreciate that, because you were actually honest and upfront and answered the question, and I appreciate it. And as far as the homeowner goes, you know, I appreciate you being candid too as well. Maybe you should have kind of spoke a little bit forward first. It's your property. And like Lisa said, we respect that. This is, you know, it's tough because you got your property and then you got your neighbors. So again, appreciate on both sides from my perspective. Thank you.
Earlier, Matt, you had asked for specifics. What is specifically being requested?
Mhm.
I think that is important. I don't know that the select board can make a decision on something so ambiguous. So I didn't know if there was anyone here that could speak. Gordon, if you had specifics on if you were asking us to approve a moratorium, can you provide specifics around what is the effective date? Is it retroactive, as an example? Is it going to impact current projects, at what stage of the project? And, I mean, you mentioned that, you know, there's no harm in reviewing our CLUC codes to address some deficiencies. Is a moratorium required for that? I think you're saying yes, but we need to know, what does this moratorium look like? And what exactly are you asking us to approve?
Certainly.
This will go on a warrant, and again, you know, the rest of the townspeople would need to vote on that. We're not making a decision on it, but we do need to know, like, what are we putting forth for the voters to consider?
Right, as we had suggested earlier, we're not talking all solar. We're not talking all commercial solar. We are more or less trying to restrict solar in residential and village areas. You know, as these folks noted, the subsidies on projects have been more structured in the state to be smaller and smaller and smaller. As it is, they're coming to 0.9999 megawatts to just fall underneath the 1 megawatt requirement where higher fees come in to the state, or higher payments to the state. There's an awful lot of 4-acre, 5-acre properties here in the residential and village area. So with full disclosure, you know, working with the select board, we're not lawyers. We're not, you know, we're just normal people trying to figure out how the town works. And I've had a lot of conversation with the town about language that we would like to see to push forward with that warrant and what that would look like. And again, with some support from the select board and what the legalese would be required to push something like that forward. I do have a copy of that, just a single copy, unfortunately. I did not get a chance to. Specifically, you're leaning towards some of the land use requirements with appropriate siting and zoning districts, setbacks and buffering, visual impacts, agricultural land conversion, stormwater management, wildlife habitat impacts, decommissioning and financial assurance, infrastructure and road use impacts, compatibility with surrounding land uses. We've spoke at length about these tonight. The exact definitions regarding what the rooftop solar installations and residential scale ground mounted systems, that would be fine. Residential, we want residents to do whatever they want with their property. That's in here for specifics. There's a lot to read in here, I'm sorry, this is rather at length, so would you rather just bring it up here, or what would be best for that?
Yeah, you can bring it.
Okay.
So what would be the next step here? If this is the language that's being proposed, I would need to send that to, and if the board is going to support this warrant article, I would need to send it to an attorney to make sure it passes muster with the criteria that were laid out earlier that you mentioned, Lisa. Now, it's gonna take me a little time to find an attorney because our attorney is conflicted. So we need to understand that. The other thing, so we've got some criteria here that folks are proposing. I'm not hearing anything about projects that are in the pipeline. Those projects, as I understand what people are asking, would continue to move forward. Is that correct?
Specifically, and we've tried not to target any specific operation at this point. Obviously, the Poland Corner Road project is the one that has been on our radar. We do have concerns about the the way information is passed around this town, and we'd like to hear about more. As far as we know, the other projects that are in the works are on commercial or general use properties that are not affected by residential in Village. So really, the only project that we would have concern of is the one being presented on Pulling Corner Road.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's gonna pass muster though, because you're singling out one particular project. I don't know how that works.
So what you're saying is you're talking about future language for future projects as
You know,
general?
if you, I think if we start to say that folks that have projects in the pipeline cannot move forward with their projects, we're probably gonna get our ass sued off.
Yeah,
I
this,
think we gotta be
so,
very careful.
there is a
here.
section on pending applications. Any complete application for solar energy facilities submitted prior to the effective date of this ordinance, which is the effective date it goes into place. So if it gets voted in by voters, that would be the effective date. Of this ordinance may, at the discretion of the municipality, and this is dictated by our planning board, so our planning board has the authority to approve these projects. Sorry, let me start that sentence over. Any complete application for a solar energy facility submitted prior to the effective date of this ordinance may, at the discretion of the municipality, be processed under existing regulations or suspended during the moratorium period. So that would, I would assume, would be up to the discretion of the planning board. So if there are pending applications that have met, mustered all of the requirements, then those would still proceed.
I think the definition of what, at what status in what state or process or project is in application would have to strongly be considered. Just presenting an initial plan to the planning board, I don't believe is considered work in progress. I think that we run a very dangerous game trying to dictate what exactly is a step in progress, and I would definitely like to see any language around a moratorium or a change in the clock to be as retroactive as possible to the time that we've had this discussion and that this has been a concern of the town. That's what I'm asking for.
You have a question?
So, right now, we're talking about this project on his property. By him putting solar panels on his property, does that change the zoning of his property? No. So can he just clear cut his own property if that's what he chooses to, without a planning board?
Sure.
Could he plant, could he start, whatever he wants without a planning board? Could he dig trenches along his property? Could he, I understand the aesthetics, and I'm not a big fan of solar, I'll preface that, but it's still his property rights. So to tell him that he's already at the stage where he's at, and there is no conflicts of what he can do on his land, it's just really the aesthetic value of it. And truthfully, I don't wanna open up my window and look at solar, but he's already addressed sorta kinda that. If I wanna cut down every single fruit tree on my property, it's my prerogative, it's mine. If you want it, then buy it. You know what I mean? And then that won't happen. Or at least make a counter offer or something. But I don't know, I think it's very targeted, this particular one, unless it goes general.
May I speak, Marion?
Wow.
The last thing I wanna say
I'm thinking now, money's
I'm
running
sorry,
through my head.
Mr. Dyer, Mr. Dyer. I'm speaking behind you.
Sorry.
Going back to the original thing, and I do agree with how stuff is possibly laid out in the planning board agenda. When this came before the planning board, it said site plan, I believe Paul Dyer, map and lot. It didn't say solar farm. So a lot of the people that came that night, some of them are here this evening, is because they got a postcard because they're within 500 feet of the property lines of where this is going to occur. And I appreciate that. But I also would like to say, since 2019, of the 5 applications that came before the planning board dealing with solar farms previously, we had 1 person come and speak about that. And it was on one that we were gonna do on our property, my girlfriend's and my property, and it was a neighbor. And that's fine, because she got a postcard. So maybe there needs to be a better way of the planning board putting something out, site plan, solar farm. But all I'm saying is there was no opposition to the large farms, and granted, they were in the general purpose zone, closer to the Lewiston Auburn Airport. But we had no opposition at all. So now we have opposition, and I appreciate that, because they got a postcard, it's within their neighborhood. And that's wonderful. Getting back into clear cutting things, if you wanna talk about the Atwood Farm, I used to own the 22-acre lot across from the Atwood Farm. I sold it to Brian Dench, a town attorney, he flipped it to somebody else. Sheila and her husband own that. What did they do? They clear cut 22 acres of land. Did anybody complain about that? They didn't put a solar farm in there, but they clear cut 22 acres of land. This person could do legally whatever he wants. He could go and clear cut all his land that he wants. If he didn't put up a solar farm, there'd be no stink about it. So just at least think about that in the realm of people complaining that you're cutting the trees, you're ruining the wilderness, you're ruining the deer wintering yards, which are not there according to our maps. Just think of that as well, with this gentleman trying to do something on his property, maybe to pay taxes, maybe to get, maybe to get, just rent over 40 years. My contract was 35 years. That's why I didn't do it. Land's gonna be worth more. So I didn't end up doing it. But if this gentleman wants to do it, it's his prerogative. So just please take that under consideration, and the fact that it is difficult when it becomes something close to you, and that's what I think what's happening right now. And I'm not discounting their concerns, but at least on the planning board end, we still have the fact that we need to have a visual understanding of what's happening there. It's not like we're saying you're clear cutting everything, and this person's here, and you can see it. We're gonna ask for all this information as well. It's not an approved, not an approved site plan application as we speak right now.
The verbiage was very misleading and it felt like it was that way on purpose. Like, I didn't know about any of the other ones, even though I read the stuff, it said sketch plan. I assume you're coming to the board to say, hey, I have a plan, I'd like to X, Y, and Z. But purposefully leaving out solar farm, I didn't know about the Torrey Road Solar Farm until it went up. Because all it said was sketch plan, or whatever the other verbiage was. It feels like that was done intentionally to avoid people showing up. And that seems shady and wrong.
I do appreciate what you're talking about, because I brought this up with Matt before, that when something comes in as a site plan, it just says, if we get an application for somebody expanding a structure on the lake, it comes in formal shoreland zoning application. That's pretty self-evident what it is, correct? So getting to your point, if it says sketch plan or site plan, and there's nothing else tagged to that, it could be site plan. Sheila's Poland Provisions, site plan. It could be the car wash down the street, site plan. It could be Big Apple and McDonald's. And I've asked Matt to at least go to the code office now that, since you guys.
Yeah, pardon me, that is a planning board function. If you want to change the way the agenda
Well, but that's
looks,
what I'm saying.
take a vote on the planning board and ask the code enforcement officer to change it.
And
It's
that's.
relatively
and
easy.
That's
And
what I'm trying
pardon
to
me,
address
your
with them.
point that these things were intentionally hidden, that's false.
No, it's not.
That's not true.
But that's what it feels like to the people who live in the town.
Well, it's not true.
It may not have been their intent, but that's what it feels like.
I mean, to Matt's point, it has not been that way since I've been on the planning board, and I've been on the planning board going on 17, 16 years now. It just used to say sketch plan and site plan. So if there are things now that are more controversial, we, on the planning board, we can address that and say, do something, so at least on the agenda, you can see it without having to delve down into other things going forward. So,
Are you talking about the postcards that come in?
no.
No?
Just the agenda.
Oh, okay.
And to comment, so 2019, right, fairly infancy. I think solar on a house, I have a portable solar generator, it's amazing. That's on a personal property. Generac has a solar generator system, I think is amazing, I just can't afford it. But that was the infancy. A lot more has come out now, and I think the culprits are in this room here. It's the state, as always, right? It's CMP, let's be honest. Those are the enemies of us, the government and CMP. They're raising our rates. They're taking fees from these solar farms, from our residents. So I think the issue is that we understand now that there is a lot more negative in the state of Maine on solar farms than there is positive, but you start going to the southern and warmer weather states where that weather is prominent, there is concerns there. And the only thing I have to say is there is a hypocrisy all of a sudden on caring about nature and food insecurity. All of a sudden now, that's gone out the window, and now we can put solar farms everywhere. 20 years ago when I built my house, I had 5 lots to pick from off of Carpenter Road, and 3 of them were denied because there was a salamander on there. I picked fiddlehead, so at least I can eat. So again, we represent all the people of Bolin and see both sides. So I think none of us here are the enemy. And I think no offense, but I think you do your best part to support. But it's the funding coming in that lures people, and that's what's happening here. So. But we appreciate, I mean, I'm not speaking for all of us, but I appreciate the candidacy, everybody being honest and upfront and being respectful to one another as well, so, no. Yeah. Oh, actually, you have to ask her.
Can I?
Oh, yes.
I will have to say, I've been just been starting coming to these meetings. And these are the most honest people that I have dealt with in government, in our town government. And if you look at our town budget, like, I don't know about you, but I've never seen a town budget go down by like $30 at one point. So they're very open, very conscious of what they spend our money on, and very responsible. So, I don't wanna point out, but yeah, nothing's being intentionally deceptive from what I can tell.
Just to follow up on that, I respect if you wanna clear cut your property, go for it. If you're going to clear cut your property and put in a 6-acre functioning business, that probably needs some oversight, right? So I think that's the difference here. Back to Mr. Garcede's point, we appreciate putting the language in for the lawyer. We do recognize that the lawyer has a conflict. Is that something that we have to talk about? Is that a select board request to have that looked at, or?
I just looked at the ordinance, sample ordinance there. I don't have anything that I can send to the lawyer. I need something that I can send to him that addresses the points he made, or our town attorney made, in the earlier email that I sent you. I need to have the language that we would put on the warrant. We also might need to do some editing on the moratorium itself, but, we've got to address those criteria so that when we send it to him, he can say, yep, this is, you're meeting the standard for this moratorium language.
My understanding in that correspondence was that he asked us to draft it, but that he couldn't touch it himself. Is that still the
Yeah,
recommendation?
he can't touch it. What I will do is, he will recommend another attorney and I'll hire them. So we'll have that kind of legal background to look at it. And I don't think it'll take that long to find somebody, I hope not.
And I think the board first has to vote on whether they want to support putting this moratorium on as a board decision on the warrant, or whether you want to have the townspeople.
Thanks for coming in, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Or do you want the
we-
townspeople to move forward instead?
Right, so there's a couple ways to approach this. If the board does not make a motion and move forward with approving a moratorium to go into effect, this would go on to the warrant that voters would then vote on in June, correct? The next option would be to collect the required amount of signatures.
The next step would be to actually write the moratorium, which has to have such language such as, whereas the town of Poland is experiencing increased, these are the reasons why, and this is what we're asking for, 180-day moratorium. It has to be very specific to what it is you're looking for. That's what you know, there's, you can go online and a lot of communities in Maine have it already and they have that language already set out that those steps you would have to follow for language. And that needs to be very specific to our town and what the moratorium's going to address.
So, but in terms of the warrant, what we're proposing today is just the warrant article, what is needed for that?
I think today would be that the board supports drafting a warrant article, because you don't have the language right now. That's what we need. We need the language that would be in the warrant, in that warrant article, and as Nikki said, we need to have the draft ordinance, which, the existing one there could probably be pencil whipped by these folks to meet that standard. I don't think it'd be that hard. But that's what we need. And
Do we need to agree on key terms for this moratorium at this stage?
At this stage, I think what you guys need to do is first decide whether you guys want to support it or not. How it moves forward after that depends on what your vote is tonight, and whether you guys want to back it and put it on the warrant without it going to petition. That's what you guys are deciding tonight. Do you guys want to put the warrant, the article, the moratorium article on the warrant? Or do you guys want the townspeople to petition for it to be on the warrant? That's the first question we need answered.
So, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
When we word our motions, they have to be in the affirmative. Yes. Okay. That's just clarifying.
So do we have a motion on the floor? Is there any motions that either of you would like to make regarding this issue?
Do we want to do that,
Debate
we're
it.
doing that now, or we want to wait?
I would do it now because that's how they know how to move forward and you guys know how to move forward.
All right, so you want to make a motion for both, or just?
You wanna make a motion to the board support putting on the warrant
Right.
a moratorium for solar energy.
Okay, all right, so we'll propose a motion right now to make a motion to put this on the warrant for a moratorium on the warrant for the solar farm,
For the board.
for the board, sorry. My voice is going too.
And before we vote, at what,
Oh, I will second that, so we have the second note.
Thank you.
Is there a deadline in terms of when you would need this, the specifics by, for it to be on the warrant?
as soon as possible, because the sequence of events would be, we get this language, and starting tomorrow, I will find an attorney that can review that language to make sure that we're gonna meet the specific criteria that our attorney mentioned earlier, and get that to them quickly for review, hopefully get it back, and if there's any changes that need to be made, we'd have to look at that. So there's a little bit of a timeline there. I don't know how long that's gonna be. Hopefully not too long before we find an attorney. Need to get the language that I can send to the attorney. He's gonna look at it, get it back to us. Pardon me. If there's any rework that needs to be done, we need to do that. None of this is unachievable. It's just paper. You know, it can be done, but it's gotta be done fairly quickly, because at the next select board meeting, we're gonna be talking about setting dates for public hearings for, pardon me, for the warrant. And the question that we need to address is retroactive. You know, is that something that the board wants to support or not? Do we want to let these folks craft some language and they can read the language and see what it says? I do know that the folks that are in the pipeline, depending on where that line is drawn, they've spent money. That's money they're not getting back if the project is stopped. Even Mr. Dyer, if his project is stopped, there's some effort and some funds that have been expended by somebody to get them to that point, and that is not reimbursed. Just something to consider. But, you know, these are the kind of things we need to understand. Doesn't mean we can't start moving forward though, but I think if we're gonna do this, we gotta go. We can't be
Right.
waiting around, we don't have a lot of time.
So just to clarify with the motion that's on the table, however we say it right, if we approve it, it's up for us to get it on the warrant. If we don't approve it, then the next motion would be for the residents to collect the.
You don't have to have a motion for that.
Oh, okay.
They do all that on their
Okay.
own by going and signing an
But
affidavit
to be
with the
clear,
clerk.
the folks that Gordon seems to be the spokesman there, they're gonna have to provide the language so that we know this is
Right.
what you wanna do.
Yeah.
And that, and I think they can do that, you know, that they've obviously thought about this a lot. But
If
what
the
we need-
board moves forward, we are responsible for providing the language.
No, I would ask
But
the
it would
folks there,
still be
because
their
they've
responsibility.
thought about it more than anybody else, they know what they want. They're asking the board to put it on the warrant, if you say, okay, we'll put it on there, but you need to give us the language. I think that's fair.
We agree with that, thank you.
And just want for clarification, this is just putting it on the warrant. Will be voted by the people of Poland in June. Before that date, there will be at least 2 public hearings that we will schedule. So that is an additional opportunity to come to the table, debate the warrant that's being put forth and proposed to the people.
So a yes
Any other-
vote,
No, on TV.
a yes vote means that you want, as a board, to put this moratorium forward to the townspeople. A no vote means that you want them to go out and petition and get the signatures from the townspeople to support it before you guys look at it to go on a warrant.
Thank you.
So, any other questions, or are we ready to vote?
Jimmy has his hand up.
Yep.
Jimmy, yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to weigh in here. I think it's up to the townspeople. I think we need the moratorium, but let the people vote, let them go out and get the signatures. I totally agree what's happening here. Well, I'm gonna, oh shoot, I'm gonna lose you again.
That's okay. We got you though,
So-
Jimmy. Thank
So
you.
Jimmy, just a question really quick. Do you
Yeah.
favor the people going out and getting the signatures with a no vote? Or do you favor the board doing the work with a yes vote?
I favor the people, I think it's up to the town. I think they need to get signatures and then we put it on the warrant. Let the townspeople decide on a vote where this is going.
Okay, so Jimmy,
And I don't know, is there something, is there any way that you or Matt can speak to MMA about this? How we should move forward with this?
we have our way forward, Jimmy.
Oh, we do,
Yep.
okay.
Yep, so Jimmy has voted a no. John DeSantis,
And a vote now.
Mary Ann,
Yes.
Lisa Albee,
No.
Jackson Leonard,
I'll go with a yes.
The vote is 2 yes, 3 no, the motion has failed. So the next step would be for you guys to draft language that you want, bring it into the clerk, and get that language going in with an affidavit of at least a committee of 5. Have to be signed on that affidavit saying that yes, they are a committee of 5, and then bring it to the townspeople. And I believe the last number I heard was 128, but Judy will give you the specific number. And she'll give you the petition links, and you guys will have to get signatures from people. And then it'll come back to the board once she certifies the signatures, and then the board will put it on the warrant at that time. Okay?
Pardon me, do we know the deadline? That's important for these folks to
It's-
know.
To be on this next one, to be on the annual town meeting warrant, it is really quick, March 9th. However, At any time after that, we have 60 days once it comes before the board to set another town meeting.
So what are we saying there?
So what we're saying is you either have to have it into us, I believe it's March 9th, I will double check tomorrow though and get you a date for sure, to get the 128 signatures and get it into us with the language to come before the board. Or if you guys don't do it before our annual town meeting, then the board has 60 days from the date you give them it after the annual town meeting.
Would that be a special election though?
Special town meeting, yes.
Well, I'm confused here. So we're saying nominally, we think it might be March 9th.
Yes.
If they don't meet that date, then what happens?
Then it has to, they can still petition for it, but it has to come before the board and the board has 60 days. But it has to be 60 days after the last town meeting,
So it would, if they miss that date, it would not go on the June town meeting?
Correct. Correct.
We highly recommend the select board reconsider their vote on this. If you had known the deadline prior to that, it may have impacted your vote.
Wait,
So we protest that vote.
the deadline's March 9th, you said?
We believe, I have to double check tomorrow.
And we're still at the mercy of the town for even the language to put forth 2 signatures. We do not even have that yet, and we do not have a lawyer that works for the town that can give us that language at this point.
So unfortunately, that's part of what the attorney was saying, it's not up to the town to come up with that language, it's up to you guys to supply that language with your petition that you want to move forward with.
I mean, I believe our guidance from Mr. Garside is to put forth the language and the lawyer would review it before putting it for petition.
I'd have to reread that.
Again, we asked the board to reconsider that if we're on such a tight deadline that we can't make this happen, and we're at the mercy of the town for guidance, then we ask again.
If the board wants to reconsider, I think it would have to be somebody in the majority that said no, that would say they want to move to reconsider it, if that's what you
Or a
want to do.
motion to revote.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a motion to revote based on the fact that the deadline, I thought it was a longer period of time.
So you're making a motion to reconsider the vote.
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Can I second that or no?
No. I do not have a second, therefore it cannot be reconsidered.
Well, I don't know, is Jimmy able to hear
Yeah,
what
he
we're
is.
saying here?
Yep,
I can hear.
yep, so we do not have a second, it cannot be reconsidered.
Well, are you gonna second that or not, Jimmy?
No.
Okay.
We'll double check the date, first thing tomorrow morning for you, and, I'll email you.
So just for clarification, if the date is March 9th, we have to bring forth language to then be approved, to then have the petition written, to then get the signatures by March 9th.
No, you guys write the language for the petition.
Okay, so there's no lawyer review at this point?
There's no lawyer review
Okay.
at that point.
Okay.
And then the board can consider whether they want the lawyer to review it once it's written by you guys and stuff like that. But you guys can get your signatures and everything prior to the board doing their part.
So the fact that the board didn't have all the info, which would have influenced their votes, is not considered at all, that the previous vote was not based off of all the info?
They reconsidered it and they didn't have a second on the motion, unfortunately, on the winning side. So they did reconsider it.
David's a good Robert's Rule of Order expert. So,
Every-
can you
yeah.
affirm?
Everything, yeah, by the books, the prevailing motion, reconsider, you have to have it second by someone who voted with the majority. So it's
Anyway,
kind of where we're at.
at this point, the administration.
So, thank you, David.
I just wanna say thank you everyone so much for taking the time to come out here, share information, share your concerns and position on this issue in the middle of a snowstorm to boot. We really appreciate you all.
He has a quick question.
I just have a quick question. I'm kinda, I don't know the answer to this, so if you do a personal solar project on your house, on a residential area, that's, doesn't change a residential. But if I do a project that is not for personal use, that doesn't change my residential zoning? Is that something the planning board?
No, your zoning doesn't change, Matt.
It doesn't change?
It doesn't, the zoning determines what you can do within that zone. There's a list of authorized things you can do in that zone.
Would that be a good justification to change that zoning to a commercial? Because the
Well, you
homeowner's
could
not
look at it, that
profiting.
might be that would be a land use code change to say that within the village area, or was it rural residential, Gordon, is that what you're looking at there? You could say that we don't wanna have commercial solar projects, and you might have some
And
details
that wouldn't
about-
be singling out anyone's project.
No, it wouldn't, but again, that would be a land use code change. And I think with the water's under the bridge to get it on the warrant for this year, but it could be one for next year.
Is that this forum, or is that the planning?
That would
board?
be the planning board.
So you have to get on the planning board, what, next week?
Yeah, I think if you
They
give the code enforcement office a call, they'll be able to give you an idea of, timelines and all that sort of stuff. They can help you with that particular aspect.
There's no planning board meeting next week.
No.
Jim, your hand is up? Did you have a question?
He just never put it down.
Oh.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Moving on with the rest of the meeting.
I'm gonna include this.
Sorry.
Yes, sir.
I'll take
The project on my grandfather,
That's what they decided.
because this is coming in after the fact.
That's part of the work.
TBD, we don't know what the language is.
Yes, and I figured out another way.
Is that everything?
It's not like Augusta.
Oh, no, we have a whole agenda left.
Yeah.
In favor of
It'll
this.
move quick.
Yeah, we're gonna move quick.
I'm in for the long haul.
All right, manager.
Okay, town manager report 3 March, Maine Waste Energy, the contractor had taken legal action for those unpaid invoices that I mentioned before, paid the invoices in full, staved off legal action. The executive committee met, we're gonna increase fees on some users effective 1 April. We've asked for legal review to understand if increasing other fees could be done. The increase in other fees are non-member municipalities. Basically, when the plant is broken and we have to divert trash, we're gonna increase the fees on those people to make sure we're covering all our costs. The whole thing here is making sure that we cover our costs and increase the revenues coming into the facility. We reviewed the FY '27 budget, still more work to do. We're gonna meet again tomorrow to review that and potential revenue increases. We're also gonna look at the remainder of the '26 budget to make sure that what we have planned for maintenance has enough money to pay for it. That's my, what I don't wanna have happen is end up at the end of that fiscal year and saying we're in the hole because we spent too much money fixing the plant. We'll see what happens. MMA Executive Committee approved hiring an outside contractor to provide short-term assistance to the finance department. They've had some personnel changes there, and that'll be a good thing. The library, I met with the contractor, USDA, and the architect. The first of those meetings were to identify reporting requirements, Build American, Buy American, and fully understand how that would all work. Next step are complete the grant paperwork. USDA is reviewing the plans. And if they don't have any questions, it's a formal letter of award to H.E. Callahan. This letter will let them lock in subcontractors, move forward with their planning process. I'm almost done with the grant. I'm hopeful. I've got 2 outstanding information items that others have to provide, and once I get those, I'm gonna fire that off. But USDA has been extremely helpful. Our contractor they are switched on. They've obviously done this kind of stuff before, so the next meeting I'll have a more comprehensive update. But the goal is to get the grant paperwork in so they can go through the USDA approval process. That gets approved, then we sign contracts and get access to our money, and then we can start actually doing the work out there.
What's the hope for when we want wanna start?
Friday.
Sure.
Late spring, early summer, you know, I don't know if that's gonna be May. What it's really gonna depend on is, how quick USDA can work. But the fact that our money is coming from congressionally directed spending is gonna shorten that timeline significantly. I don't think people realize just what a big deal that is, because it's not, are we getting the money? We're getting the money, we're just going through the process to document how it's gonna be administered. So that's a big deal.
You're responsible for that?
What?
For that?
Yeah,
That
we get a
portion
lot of, we've got $2.25 million of work that's gotta be done out there this summer.
And so you have to show the state exactly what the money's, oh, yeah.
Yeah,
All right, good for you guys.
we've got a lot of, so we need to, you know, get going. On that. And pending any questions, that's the manager report.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Financial report, we're 69% through the year. Doing pretty well here. You know, looking at revenues, we're on the glide slope. The one I look at is motor vehicle excise, that's at 67, 0.3, pretty close. That'll change as I think the weather warms up and people start buying more vehicles. I'm just briefing off the expense summary here, and we're okay. As I said, we're a little over 69% through the year. In general, we're at 60% community services, 60%. We look at things in there, the beach maintenance, that's a little higher, but it's been high since last summer because that's when we spend that money. Social services, we paid all those folks. Public Works, and both Public Works and Solid Waste are below the glide slope. Public Safety is a bit high. Fire Rescue just a slightly higher. Law Enforcement, that's a contract timing thing. Animal Control, it's a relatively small budget comparatively speaking, but it's at 80, not a big issue there. Financial Services at 72, what's driving that? It's really the RSU payment. It's just such a big payment, even though it's only 66% through the year. It just drives that up. But that's okay, that's normal. No other issues in finance. And pending any questions, that's the finance report.
I move we accept the finance report as read.
A second.
Can you unmute him, please?
He is on.
John DeSantis,
Yes.
Marianne Hawks,
Yes.
Lisa Elby,
Yes.
Jackson Lerner,
Yes.
Jimmy Walker.
Yes.
With a vote 5-0, you have approved the financial reports as presented.
Plow truck chassis, request for proposals. We've got a plow truck that we need to replace. It's at 17 years of service. The nominal replacement window is 15 years. Pardon me. By the time we get the new plow truck in and on the road, it's gonna be at the 18-year point. So we're doing pretty good there. We're getting a few more years out of it. But these are we have a standard list of equipment that we ask for the plow truck chassis, which is the first one. Pretty standard stuff, and you can see on the bid form, there's, do you have it or you don't have it, a yes, no sort of thing. And I think we have to do these individually.
Yes.
So if someone wants to make a motion to approve that RFP, we'll.
Take a motion.
Yeah, make a motion to approve the RFP for the plow truck chassis as proposed.
I second.
Thank you.
Jim Walker,
Yes.
John DeSantis.
Yes.
Marianne Hawks.
Yes.
Lisa Elby.
Yes.
Jackson Lerner.
Yes.
With a vote of 5-0, you've approved the plow truck RFP and for it to be distributed.
The next one on the list is plow and sanding equipment request for proposal. So what we're buying is we buy the truck and then we buy the plow and the sanding equipment that go on it. And so it's kind of interesting. The truck comes in and then we see it for like a day and then it goes away and is outfitted with all this plow and sanding equipment. But that's what this second proposal is for. And if folks are okay with that, it follows a standard format that we use for every plow truck we buy.
Make a
So you need a
motion.
motion for that?
Yes, please.
I make a motion, we approve the plow and sanding equipment request for proposals.
I'll second.
John DeSantis.
Yes.
Marion Hawk.
Yes.
Lisa Alby.
Yes.
Jackson Lerner.
Yes.
Jim Walker.
Yes,
By a vote 5-0, you have approved the sanding and plow equipment RFP along with distribution.
The old sweeper.
Yeah, the next one is the 1985 Elgin Pelican Sweeper. We have certainly got our money's worth out of that machine. And I think we bought it used.
You should make it, you should put that in historical.
I was like, 1985 was a good year.
We did it.
It was a great year.
But
You remember that?
I would say it's a credit to our public works team that's kept that going all these years. We've got good value out of it. We're replacing it. We bought a used, new to us, sweeper that for the last year and a half has been basically being rebuilt. So we're gonna have actually a really good sweeper here that's gonna last us for quite a long time. We only need it for the sweeping season, so they don't get a lot of miles on them. But we're asking a minimum bid of $2,000 for this one, and we'll send that off to its next owner.
I move we approve the request for proposals for the 1985 Pelican sweeper and distribution.
I'll second.
John DeSantis.
Yes.
Marion Hawk.
Yes.
Lisa Alby.
Yes.
Jackson Lerner.
Yes.
Jim Walker.
yes,
With a vote 5-0, you have approved the Public Works sweeper bid, request for sealed bids.
Okay, last one we have for you tonight is road posting. We'd like to post those tomorrow. Other municipalities have started doing that, but we're, in talking to Adam, the weather's getting warm enough where we want to go ahead and post those. Typically, we do it toward the beginning of March. It'll be done. Roads will be unposted by the 1st of May.
I move that we go ahead and approve the posting of roads as listed.
And can I just?
Oh,
sorry.
go ahead.
Yeah, it's just up to Adam, right, to decide when to take down the road posting, right?
No, they come back down May 1st.
Okay,
Yes.
but he can take it down earlier if he has the discretion or wants to.
He'll keep them up till May 1st.
Well, I know they've come down before in April, so that's why I was just wondering.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't remember that, but
Yeah. At the latest.
at the latest, okay.
Yep, May 1st at the latest.
Matt's tired.
I'm
I know, it's exhausting today.
Do we have a second?
Second.
John DeSantis.
Yes.
Marion Hawk.
Yes.
Lisa Alby.
Yes.
Jackson Lerner.
Yes.
Jim Walker.
yes,
By a vote 5-0, you have agreed to posting of the roads effective tomorrow, 3/4/2026, to be posted until May 1st at the latest, depending on the weather and road conditions.
Anyone like to make a motion on the payables?
Sure. I say we make a motion to pay our bills in the amount of $204,924.36 for the fiscal year ending 2026.
I'll second.
John DeSantis.
Yes.
Marion Hawk.
Yes.
Lisa Alby.
Yes.
Jackson Lerner.
Yes.
Jim Walker.
yes,
By a vote 5-0, you have approved the payables in the amount of $204,924.36.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
I'm sorry.
Lisa.
I Just real quick, do you have anything?
No, I'm all set, thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to remind folks that papers are available, nomination papers. There are several positions that will be open and on the ballot in June. There will be one select board position, 3 RSU positions, one for a 3-year term and one for a 2-year term. Two for a 2-year term?
2 for a 3-year term.
2 for your 3-year and one for a
2-year.
2-year. And then 2 budget committee, and that's also for
3 years.
3 years? Okay, so that's it.
Thank you. I don't have anything.
I'm good.
Nikki,
What?
can you hear me?
Yep.
tonight, will I have to come in and sign those papers?
No, as long as 3 sign them, I'm all set, so you're good.
Oh, okay. I didn't know whether I had to put my signature on those papers that we approved.
Nope, you're good.
Stay home out of the snow, Jimmy.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you.
So Lisa has made a motion to adjourn, second?
Second?
John DeSantis.
Yes.
Marion Hawks.
Yes.
Lisa Elby.
Yes.
Jackson Lerner.
Yes.
Jim Walker.
Yes.
By a vote 5-0, you have adjourned the meeting tonight. Have a good evening, everyone.
Good night, Jimmy.
Night all.
Jimmy, give
Yeah,
the
night.
mute button.